We'll address the coronavirus vaccine more in a moment. But first, we wanted to address some of the potential misinformation about COVID-19, coronavirus, which has drastically affected the way we live our daily lives here in the United States and across the globe.
Much of the USA and the world is in lockdown, self-quarantine, and previously jam-packed places like Grand Central Station, which used to see millions of visitors a day, and airports, which were previously bustling, are now virtually empty, with thousands of flights being canceled every day. Basically, coronavirus has created a bunch of ghost towns.
We already showed you in episode 8 how the mainstream media tends to be all in the same script. So, is it possible that they are all on the same script with COVID-19?
For example, toward the end of March, when New York City became the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak, in the United States at least, Governor Cuomo was calling for more ventilators and more hospital beds, since he said it had become a war zone in New York City. On multiple channels, we were shown this footage, which appeared to be of a semi-busy ICU at New York City in a hospital.
However, we soon discovered that it wasn't actually New York City. That was footage previously shown by Sky News of Italy on March 22nd, 3 days before.
Check it out. You can see the CBS broadcast of March 25th on the top and the Sky News broadcast of March 22nd on the bottom. Same footage. And by ICU standards, not really all that busy.
But maybe all the mainstream media was given the wrong footage? Okay.
It's possible.
Maybe it was a mistake, right? Another bizarre video that we've seen is alleged footage from a New York City ICU ward of a hospital worker using a ventilator on a coronavirus patient. Here's about 10 seconds from that news clip from Channel 4 out of the UK.
The New York governor today begged President Trump to send help now, saying he'd been forced to buy ventilators from China because it was like bidding on eBay to secure enough in his own country.
Stop the video right there. Upon closer inspection, we can clearly see that this is a mannequin. We're not making this stuff up. Check out the photo. Check out the words on the sign. Again, this was aired on Channel 4 News in the UK. It's really strange, isn't it?
Okay, so maybe they got the footage mixed up.
Twice.
Maybe,
it's possible.
But are we sure that everyone who dies with coronavirus actually died from the virus? The CDC has given guidance on how to report a coronavirus death. Check this out.
From the CDC's official guidance, quote, "It is important to emphasize that coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19 should be reported on the death certificate for all decedents where the disease caused or is assumed to have caused or contributed to the death."
Did you get that? The CDC is instructing hospital workers to assume that COVID-19 was the cause of death.
Then listen to this. If the decedent had other chronic conditions, such as COPD or asthma, that may have also contributed, these conditions are supposed to be reported in Part 2. That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we're not suggesting there is no virus or no deaths. We're just thinking logically and exploring all possibilities here. What if the pandemic isn't really as bad as the media is telling us?
What if the mainstream media scripts are being written by someone who has an agenda, and that agenda would benefit from mass hysteria? Is it possible that the end game is for Big Pharma to make billions on a vaccine to prevent a future pandemic?
A vaccine certainly would be great news for Bill Gates, who just announced his foundation is going to spend billions of dollars to help build factories for 7 possible coronavirus vaccine makers.
Spend is probably the wrong word there. Invest is more like it, right? And what a better way to ensure a good return on your investment than to make sure that governments mandate the coronavirus vaccine. Oh yeah, that's what he wants. And he recently got busted on a TED Talk, and they edited out a sentence, but Gary Franchi and Zero Hedge got the original footage.
Why would they remove it unless they wanted to hide it? Check out what Gates really wants.
Eventually, what we'll have to have is certificates of who's a recovered person, who's a vaccinated person, because you don't want people moving around the world where you'll have some countries that won't have it under control. Sadly, you don't want to completely block off the ability for those people to go there and come back and move around. So eventually there will be sort of this digital immunity proof that will help facilitate the global reopening up.
A digital certificate or proof of vaccination, that's the plan.
Why would Gates be pushing for this? Here's why. Microsoft and Gavi, which we just mentioned, are planning on controlling the global vaccination digital ID program announced in 2019 at the ID 2020 Alliance Summit in New York City.
In the latest batch of insanity, there is a movement toward a registration system where people will be designated as immune or vaccinated, and only with appropriate and verifiable identification will citizens be permitted to engage in society.
In other words, in order to be let out in public, the human cattle are going to have to obey and get jabbed. This is not alarmism, and these are not scare tactics. These are observable changes that are in motion right now, and a conclusion that is rational. It's supported, and it has historical precedent. Dr. Anthony Fauci, the head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, the NIAID, you see him on TV all the time, he's already set the stage for a mandatory coronavirus vaccine.
By the way, Dr. Fauci is on the Leadership Council of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and previously worked with Gates on his Global Vaccine Action Plan. Have you figured out yet why he has been so against using anti-malaria drug, hydrochloroquine? Because he and his buddy Gates want to give everyone a vaccine instead.
The good news is that as of today, mid-April 2020, Surgeon General Jerome Adams explained that the Coronavirus Task Force has effectively dumped the Gates CDC WHO predictive contagion model. And they're now working with what he calls the real data. And he believes that based on this data, that businesses will begin to reopen as early as May and others in June. And by the time you watch this video, you're going to know a lot more than we do today. This runs contrary to the fear-mongering that's going on right now with Fauci and Gates, who have threatened that businesses may not reopen for a year, or at least until their conveniently patented vaccination is available for everyone.